the complete profiling of an individual could have been done, which was otherwise just not feasible or possible. So here was an example out of a telecom industry. Let me kind of highlight two more examples which could be of something which is of great significance to all of us in India, because we have to be, we are all an equal participant in creating, if I may use the word, transparent India, where the services from government is something which is touching everyone in the same manner. Also the fact that we need to be supporting the initiative of government on revenue collection. One of the states in India, they embarked on the journey of increasing the tax collection. And guess where the challenge was? The easier piece was to find correlations, such as a cement dealer, if he was paying, let's say, sales tax where the growth was at X percentage. But creating a correlation between a cement dealer with the infrastructure growth, with the growth in steel industry, as also GDP, probably would have given a much clearer and better view of knowing what should really have been the trajectory of the growth in the tax collection. That was the easy part. But what analytics brought out was much more than that. We found that there were cartels working in that particular state where fictitious billing was going on between individuals. Goods were not moving. In the whole group, people claimed the refund, but nobody had really paid the tax to the government. That was not the only one. There were also instances where actually in this state you have a tax called the turnover tax, where there was a threshold of 50 lakhs. We found that there were organizations such as ABC and brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and so on, and they were distributing the billing across these entities, though it was owned by the same set of individuals, to remain below the threshold so that the turnover tax was not applicable. So these are all ways and means of how frauds were going on, and it was humanly not possible through eyeballing that such trends could be spotted. End result was the collection to that government actually had gone up by triple-digit crores. So these are all realities which are happening in government. In fact, today's paper in Delhi, the Times of India in Delhi, carries an article on improving what I call safety on the road. And when I'm saying safety on the road, there is a gory statistics in India. There are 1,000 deaths that happen per day because of the road accident. And one of the reasons so is that the process of granting of license and ability of a person, despite creating traffic offenses, to get multiple licenses is something which goes unchecked. In the recent past, analytics was used in the NCR area for about 6 crore license holders. And guess what the result was? Close to 59 lakhs such users had multiple licenses and they were still going scot-free. So coming back, I potentially see awesome amount of opportunity across, whether it is in government, which could be essentially doing things in the area of whether it is providing healthcare facilities to policing to what have you. Even in commercial sector, obviously the opportunities are many. So I firmly believe that the vision with which the analytical hub is being planned here in Kolkata is something which is a great vision, which is absolutely achievable and can really create awesome amount of wealth for the entrepreneurs, as well as creating an ecosystem around it which will be very conducive for making Kolkata a prosperous city, a city of joy where people create such great insights as well as foresight to solve I would say, the pains of the business, not only in India but across the globe. On that note, I would like to kind of end my talk and congratulate once again BCCI on this initiative, and all the very best for the grand success. Thank you very much.
I think I'm standing between tea and this session, I guess, Ambarish. So I'm going to just quickly give a perspective and views. Once again, namaskar. It's a great feeling to come, being son of the soil from Bengal. It's always a pleasure to come back. Spent a significant amount of time in Canada and US by virtue of being part of Minax. A little bit of background. Minax is a Canadian company, about 3 decades of leadership, and then feel very proud that a bunch of Indians, us and CX partners, now own the asset with about 22,000 people worldwide. And of course we do have our footprint in Bengal, and we have Shobik right here sitting along with his colleague who manages the center right here. Now if you look at business analytics as a thesis for the next level of competitive advantage, it is a little bit esoteric when we use buzzword, but I will try to demystify as much as possible. This whole idea of big data actually stems from the paradigm of the advancement of computing. Earlier, if you had to run a very strong, sophisticated regression model, it took hours and hours and hours. And therefore statisticians based thesis on sample size. So I will take a sample size, and based on that I'll try to extrapolate behavior. But with the huge advent of computing, now you can churn big data. And today, as you know, the big data has the 3 V's, which is volume, variety and velocity. I mean, every minute huge amount of data is getting churned, and therefore there is a challenge for marketeers to find out how do I make my competitive advantage. There's a very interesting saying: whatever now gets manufactured, let's say in Sony at 10 AM will get emulated in China at 6 PM in 2025. So that's the backdrop in which we are sitting, and we have seen that. I mean, iPad, immediately Samsung comes up with an additional Me Too product. So product differentiation is just gone. Earlier you had to have an edge for 2 years, couple of years, but now it's kind of gone. So what is the next high ground for differentiation? It is all about consumer experience, and to know the consumer in and out, you have to really mind his behavior, his footprint in the enterprise. So that's where the challenge is today, and that's why people are talking so much about big data. It's not about automation, it's about understanding consumer as to what my customer is doing and how can I make a difference and how can I be different to that consumer. Now, a couple of examples I'll give you. You have heard of a great electronics retailer called Best Buy, am I right, in the US? I mean, very well entrenched into the American heartland, and anybody who wants to buy electronics goes to Best Buy. Now, just recently, and this is about a year back, they have been there for 2 decades, they just realized that more than 50% of the people who shop in Best Buy are women, and that store is managed by men. Very interesting. This is not big data, this is pure analysis. This is not even non-linear analytics we are talking about. So corporations are in a state that they love status quo and run the enterprise, but you see a store where more than 50% are women and you have guys running the store. And the behavior pattern of men and women shopping is what they call is men love coupon shopping and women do cluster shopping. Which means men would get a coupon for a $20 off on DVD drive and will go to the DVD aisle, Samsung, Sony, JVC, pick up one and come back and go and turn it on and drink beer and watch television or sports. Women will do cluster shopping. So they will buy a printer and then probably she's thinking that this is for my daughter's 18th birthday, she's leaving home, I need to buy some printer and then a camera. And then if you look at this whole idea of these three products, they're spread across the aisles. So she buys a Sony camera, and then what happens is she wants to buy a printer, and then the camera salesman says, that's aisle 17, ma'am. So she walks all the way to aisle 17, which is the printer bay, and asks, I'm looking for a printer. The guy asks, what is the DPI you're looking at? That's like Hebrew to her, am I right? Dots per inch she has never heard. She wants the camera to work with a printer, and then she goes and shows, I bought this camera, I want this to be connected with this printer, I want to print, and I want to buy some papers too. So if you imagine that consumer's need, which is a cluster shopping environment that's happening, is not even understood by the largest retailer. And then this is the simplistic example of more of analysis and not analytics. Then let's go to deeper sense of analytics, which is the classical beer and diaper story. I hope many of you have heard, but for the sake of repetition for a few of you who have not heard, is a simplistic conjoined product offering which is called in retailer shelf, which is a beer and peanut. No brainer, am I right? If you have shelf full of beers, the next conjoined product, adjacent product that you would like to keep next to the shelf is peanuts, walnuts, cashew nuts, and so on and so forth. But then this is a team, again the brilliant bunch of data scientists, domain guys, retail experts were churning the ERP data of how much beer has been sold, how much peanut has been sold, how much XYZ has been sold, and the shopping cart swipes, which is when you check out in the shopping mall, you swipe your cart and that talks about your shopping basket. So you may have potatoes, beer, tomatoes, chips, what have you, some cosmetic products, blah blah blah. Suddenly they ran a regression and found a huge amount of correlation between beer and diapers. Now I'm sure some of you who do not know the story must be scratching your head. How are these two correlated? And then this team went deeper into this and they found these are all married men with children, young children. So now the hypothesis, which is data, is now getting built that married men with young children who actually want to buy beer get disturbed because they only drink beer at home because they're babysitting and the baby cries, so therefore let me buy the diaper too so that I'm undisturbed. So that's how this correlation was unfolded, and they now put beer cans next to diaper shelves. The beer sale increased twofold. Very interesting. So we have never found this correlation, but this data science which is now there to understand disjointed effort of giving us access to information and new paradigm that we have never assessed. And we have talked about a lot of size of the market, which is 25 billion, we have talked of 51 billion. But I can tell you today the impact that big data makes into enterprises is of orders of $200 billion just in healthcare in US alone. Which means the impact that this big data, like he mentioned the telecom example of 100 million excess revenues, the impact of big data, its application into the healthcare industry in the US is $200 billion. Let me give you an example. Let's say there are 35 million people who are insured. Within that there are 25 million diabetic, and within that there are 4 million extremely vulnerable to diabetic as a KYC information, and therefore they need to take insulin injection every day. And now if you look at an insurance company, they have all this data at various silos. The pharmacy data, that means whether this individual has picked up the insulin. They have the data which is what is this guy paying, what is his vulnerability, what is his past disease, etc., etc. Now let's say this guy has now not correlated this pharmacy data and his data on a dynamic basis. What happens? Obviously, there's a huge amount of cost. And today the insurance companies in the US are grappling with medical cost. That means whatever premium I collect, about 86% goes in giving money to the hospitals back. So I have to run my entire organization with 14%, that too with sales, general administration, office, etc., etc., minuscule profit. Now if you now look at this data, which is the pharmacy data, which is showing that this individual, Mr. John Smith, has not picked up insulin for 2 weeks, and if that information is correlated with that vulnerable cluster who will actually become extremely emergency patient, it actually throws up into the command center, and the command center ships 4 insulin packs in FedEx into that customer and says, hey, looks like you have not picked up your insulin. Is there anything that we can do and help you? And please go ahead and take your medicine. We'll be very happy to give you a call. What does the consumer think? Oh my God, this XYZ insurance company is so caring and really cares about me that I didn't pick up the insulin because I was feeling a little better, but I should take it. Now, that was how the consumer perceived. The brand, the insurance company, not only fulfilled his expectation, but avoided a $10,000 emergency response cost, because had she landed up there, it would have costed $10,000 instead of just a $20 FedEx bill. So that's how the impact of rationalization of cost and opportunity is going to be huge, and that's in hundreds of billions of dollars. I will go back to the theme on which Ambarish briefed me, and I think he started with his idea of dream. And I always talk of this return on imagination, just not return on investment. I mean, that's the language well understood, but return on imagination, there are several case studies all across the world as to what is the quotient of imagination. And I have invariably found that many a times dreams just die. I mean, because those dreams have not been converted into intense desire. And if I look at some areas for improvement in Calcutta, is that we are argumentative Indians, and Calcutta stands as an epitome of adda, of debate. Why did America not send milk to Cuba? Is a conversation over a steaming cup of coffee in my young days. I had those experiences. But whenever it comes into action, I think we somehow give up. Hobena is a word I have heard many times. I don't know, I mean, maybe it's philosophical. Ki hobe, I mean, see, I mean, that tone is okay. I mean, that's fine. I mean, life is okay. We are going on. Why can't we have that desire of an ambition that I have to do it? If this is something, if anything that happens in this seminar is, I would imagine a few people who will have that burning desire that no, I need to do something. I need to go back to my company. I mean, the minister said that something needs to be done in the social sector, in analytics. Let me do it. And probably I can do it. And all schools have cell phones. And all teachers and principals can send an SMS message about how many teachers showed up in the school. That comes back, I'll collate, I'll publish in a website and show it to the education minister. This is the attrition heat map of your school. Here we go. Call up this school, call up this principal. Big data, analytics, visualization. No money. Just one guy showing up and getting this done. Now, that action orientation now becomes an education IP, it becomes an intellectual property, it becomes an analytics for the education sector, and go and package it and sell it into the American world, into the European world. Because what cardinal mistake we should not do, we did in IT, and I feel at times very sad, though it's successful, is that we have remained in the paradigm of time and material, which means we have largely focused on the thesis of the arbitrage of labor. We are talking of a little bit of non-linearity, but I don't see products being created or intellectual properties getting created. The last that was created was probably yoga, and which anybody is not owned by anybody, I mean, which is an IP that we created. But this is a sector where we can actually create a lot of intellectual property. But in order to do that, there is a need for us to really come together, and not only scientists, data scientists, businessmen, government, companies, buyers, sellers, all have to come together. Simple example. We talked of the supply chain for this ecosystem. As you know, this industry, this hub, will only improve or will come into fruition when all these players of the ecosystem work together. We talked of the IIT Kharagpur, we talked of IIST, we talked of Jadavpur University, we talked of ISI. These are the universities and the the institutions that will provide this team of people who understand machine models and will throw lines. Can I see with the raise of hand how many of you are from IIEST, Jadavpur University, Indian Institute of Science, and whatever universities that produce? Can I just, with the raise of hand? Wonderful. So now you understood the problem.